Most people wander through life blind, shackled by illusions of fairness, morality, and luck. Today, you will learn why they fail, and how to step ahead of 99% of them. If you desire influence, control, and the sharp advantage that separates the masters from the herd, you cannot afford to ignore what follows. Observe the world carefully, for it is neither just nor kind. Power belongs not to the virtuous, but to those who understand the mechanics of human nature, who exploit weaknesses with calculated precision. In this video, you will peer into the darker truths that most refuse to acknowledge. That emotions can be manipulated, alliances can be crafted and broken, and perception is often more important than reality itself. We will dissect the strategies that the cunning employ to dominate, leaving the complacent masses behind in obscurity. Prepare yourself to see the rules of life, not as they are taught, but as they are lived. By the powerful, you must learn the most dangerous truth first. Revealing your intentions is the fastest path to defeat. Do you think honesty is a virtue in a world governed by ambition and fear? Think again. Those who display their desires too openly invite opposition, sabotage, and betrayal. They are prey. And you, if you wish to rise above the herd, must become a predator who hides in plain sight. Consider the rulers of history who mastered this art. Julius Caesar, for instance, concealed the depth of his ambition until he crossed the Rubicon. Did Rome suspect the magnitude of his designs? No. By the time the Senate realized the threat, it was too late. He acted not out of luck, but from the strategic concealment of his true goals. And you must ask yourself, are you revealing too much to the very people who will envy, obstruct, or betray you? There is power in invisibility. When your ambitions are veiled, you observe others without interference, while they reveal theirs willingly, thinking it is a safe display. What could be more valuable than knowing their intentions while keeping your own hidden? Knowledge is leverage, and leverage is dominance. Every human interaction becomes a chessboard, every conversation a battlefield where subtlety wins the war that boldness cannot. Look closer at psychological reality. Humans are drawn to transparency. They equate openness with virtue, naivety with trustworthiness. They admire those who confess, who speak freely of desires, dreams, and plans. But this admiration is their weakness. They underestimate the silent, the calculating, those who smile while masking an agenda. Do you wish to be underestimated? Good. Underestimation is a weapon more effective than armies, more efficient than wealth. Now, let us examine a modern illustration. In corporate warfare, the boardroom is a theater. Executives parade their visions and strategies for applause, oblivious to the colleague who listens quietly, observes patterns, and strikes when opportunity peaks. That silent observer, the one who conceals ambition, is often the one who ascends fastest while the vocal dreamers falter. They mistake noise for influence, emotion for power, and honesty for loyalty. History and psychology converge on one lesson. Concealment is strategic, revelation is perilous. But how do you practice this without becoming cold, detached, or paranoid? The answer lies in selective disclosure. Speak, but speak carefully. Reveal, but only the details that serve your advantage. Consider how Renaissance princes, scholars, and merchants managed correspondence. Letters were never fully honest, negotiations never fully transparent. Even flattery was wielded as a mask, a tool to elicit truth from the other, while protecting one's own. You must internalize a truth often overlooked. Every confession, every unveiled intention is a gift to your rivals. By hiding yours, you force others to act first, to expose weakness, to commit before you do. Observe them. Test them. Let their gestures betray them while you remain a sphinx in their midst. But caution, concealment is not mere silence. It is an active art. It is smiling while knowing. It is agreeing while plotting. It is listening while learning. The subtlety lies in never allowing your concealment to appear suspicious. If you are too opaque, you provoke curiosity, mistrust, and retaliation. Balance is critical. Be invisible enough to move freely, visible enough to avoid alarm. This delicate dance is the hallmark of mastery. Even the greatest deceivers understood this principle. Machiavelli himself wrote of princes who must appear virtuous yet act ruthlessly when required, those who must project honesty while plotting conquest. The essence is timeless, reveal nothing, and you hold the initiative. Let others reveal all, and you hold the advantage. Ask yourself now in your own life, in your ambitions, who knows your designs? Have you given them an opportunity to interfere, to preempt, to obstruct? Or do you move like the shadow in the corridors of influence? Observing, calculating, waiting for the precise moment to act. This is the first and most vital lesson on your path ahead. Concealment is power. Ambition displayed openly invites chains. Ambition hidden secures freedom. It is the difference between the predator and the prey, the master and the fool, the ruler and the ruled. And yet, concealment is merely the beginning. For those who master it, a darker, more precise understanding awaits, the manipulation of desire and fear itself. What if you could control not just your exposure, but the very choices of those around you? That, my observer of truths, is where the next step lies. Perception is more than a reflection of reality. It is the battlefield upon which influence is won and lost. Ask yourself, do people act toward you because of who you are or because of who they believe you to be? The answer is rarely truth. The world bows not to reality, but to illusion. And those who master this illusion hold power far beyond their physical means. Consider the rulers of Florence who understood that appearances were weapons as lethal as swords. Lorenzo de' Medici, known as Lorenzo the Magnificent, governed not only through wealth and intelligence, but through a carefully constructed image of generosity, wisdom, and strength. Citizens revered him, enemies feared him, yet few could discern the calculated subtlety beneath his charming exterior. Do you think charm and perception are trivial? They are the instruments of dominance. Perception is the lens through which people interpret all action. Your words, your gestures, your silences, all are interpreted and often misinterpreted. But here lies opportunity. If others misperceive, they act according to the story you allow them to see. You can guide their choices, manipulate their expectations, and even provoke behaviors that serve your ambitions, all without overt coercion. Look at the battlefield of history. Generals and kings who won not through force alone, but through controlled narrative. Napoleon Bonaparte understood that morale was as crucial as muskets. The mere perception of invincibility could collapse an enemy's resolve before a single blow was struck. Do you see the lesson? Reality matters less than the belief others hold. To control belief is to control reality itself, and mastery of perception is the gateway to that control. In daily life, the principle is identical. In business, in politics, even in intimate relationships, influence follows the eye and the mind, not the truth. People respond to what they perceive as authority, confidence, or virtue, regardless of whether it exists. You must ask yourself, how are you perceived? Do you appear decisive when uncertain, fearless when cautious, virtuous when calculating? The careful crafting of image is the silent engine of advancement. But beware, perception is a double-edged sword. If your image falters, if inconsistency is detected, admiration transforms into suspicion, and trust into fear. Consider the fate of those who rise too quickly, flaunt too much, or misrepresent themselves without skill. Their fall is swift, their ruin public. The art lies not in fabrication, but in controlled revelation. A delicate choreography of appearance and reality, synchronized to achieve influence while avoiding exposure. Even manipulation itself depends upon perception. A leader who desires obedience must first appear worthy of it. A negotiator who seeks advantage must first appear reasonable. A lover who wishes devotion must first appear desirable. In every human interaction, you are both actor and director. The eyes of others are your stage, and the performance must be impeccable, subtle, and unbroken by misstep. Observe the power of symbols, rituals, and subtle gestures. Alexander the Great was a master not only of conquest, but of perception. He allowed his troops and subjects to see him as more than mortal, a semi-divine presence whose courage and wisdom inspired unwavering loyalty. Did he truly possess superhuman qualities? No, but the belief in them was sufficient to bend reality to his will. And you, in your own sphere, can employ the same principle, craft symbols of authority, act decisively, and let perception multiply your influence beyond your physical reach. Do you now see why perception is not mere vanity? It is the architecture of influence, the scaffolding upon which all power rests. To neglect it is to surrender control. To master it is to become, in the eyes of others, greater than you truly are. The wise understand this, the knaves suffer for it, and the ambitious exploit it mercilessly. Yet perception alone is not enough. To truly dominate, you must combine the mastery of perception with a deeper understanding of human motivation. The desires, fears, and weaknesses that drive others to act. For perception is the hand that guides, but desire is the engine that moves, and those who understand both become nearly unstoppable. So ask yourself, how do you appear? How do they see you? And what truths about yourself are you willing to conceal, emphasize, or exaggerate to bend reality in your favor? Mastering perception is not a single act, it is a lifelong strategy, a constant adjustment, a relentless pursuit of influence. And as you refine this skill, as your image becomes sharper and your control over perception more precise, a new, darker question emerges. Once others believe in your power, how far can you push them without resistance? The answer lies in the next step, the manipulation of desire and fear itself. To act with power, you must first learn the most uncomfortable truth: attachment is weakness. The more you tie yourself to people, outcomes, or illusions of loyalty, the less control you possess. Every bond, every expectation, every emotional investment is a chain that can be exploited by those who understand the calculus of detachment. Do you wish to be free, to move unimpeded, to strike where others are blind? Then you must cultivate strategic detachment. Consider the rulers of antiquity. Alexander the Great, for all his charisma and brilliance, maintained a careful distance from his generals and even his closest companions. He inspired devotion, yes, but he did not allow affection to cloud judgment. A commander too close to a prince risks distraction, a blind spot, a fatal indulgence. Power is not nurtured through intimacy alone. It thrives when you observe without being ensnared, when you influence without being emotionally compromised. Psychology confirms this principle. Humans are inherently vulnerable to emotional manipulation. Attachment generates predictability. The more you care, the more they can anticipate your choices, exploit your desires, and influence your decisions. Detachment, by contrast, fosters clarity. By observing without attachment, you see intentions and weaknesses in sharp relief and act without hesitation. Are you willing to sacrifice comfort for control? You must, if you seek dominance. History offers countless illustrations. Consider Machiavelli's own analysis of princes who lost power. Their downfall often came from indulgence. Favoring friends, rewarding loyalty with leniency, allowing affection to dictate policy. Caesar, too, met betrayal from those closest to him, Brutus among them, because attachment blinds even the wisest to the inevitability of ambition. Detachment is your shield. It is what separates the decisive from the compromised. But do not mistake detachment for coldness alone. Strategic detachment is a subtle art. It is engaging when it serves, silent when it benefits, present when required, and absent when advantageous. It is the difference between seeming invested and being free. Observe the cunning leaders of our age. They smile, they converse, they share confidences. But never let their investment be total. Their influence is amplified precisely because they are never wholly consumed by the emotions they provoke in others. In practice, detachment allows you to manipulate without guilt, to act without hesitation, to pivot when circumstances demand. In negotiation, it is the calm observer who dictates terms. In relationships, it is the one who is desired, not the one who chases. In conflict, it is the strategist who anticipates betrayal before it occurs. Those who cannot detach are enslaved by impulse, desire, and fear, the very elements that you must wield against others with precision. Consider the modern battlefield: corporate hierarchies, political arenas, and social networks. Leaders who cling too tightly to approval falter. They react to criticism, bend to pressure, and are ensnared by loyalty and affection. The detached individual, by contrast, moves freely, seizes opportunity, and remains immune to the petty schemes that ensnare the emotionally invested. In this, detachment is not a deficiency of heart, but a mastery of mind. Yet detachment is not absence, it is calculation. You must engage enough to influence, enough to inspire, enough to conceal your distance. Alexander did not isolate himself completely. He inspired loyalty by acting as a distant ideal, a figure to revere, not a companion to coddle. Do you see the distinction? The truly powerful are not alone, they are selectively connected. Their bonds serve strategy, not sentiment. Ask yourself now, where are you entangled in ways that diminish your influence? Which attachments cloud your judgment, expose your weaknesses, or constrain your options? To rise above, you must prune every connection that does not serve your calculated ascent. Detachment is not cruelty, it is the armor that allows you to act decisively, strike swiftly, and move where others cannot follow. And yet, detachment is only a prelude, for once you command freedom from attachment, you gain clarity. But clarity alone does not compel obedience. To truly dominate, you must learn to wield the human heart itself, to bend desire, fear, and ambition to your design. That is the next frontier, the subtle, merciless art of manipulating what drives others to act. All men are predictable. Not in every action, not in every thought, but in their desires and their fears. Observe carefully, and you will see patterns that repeat like the ticking of a clock. Desire drives them toward what they crave. Fear drives them away from what they dread. Those who understand this law can bend men's choices, sway decisions, and control outcomes without lifting a sword. Ask yourself, do you wield such power? Or are you merely subject to the whims of others? Consider the art of the Roman emperors. Augustus, the founder of empire, ruled not by terror alone, but by carefully balancing admiration and apprehension. Citizens adored him for the peace and prosperity he promised, yet feared the hidden machinery of his authority. He understood that desire without fear is fragile, and fear without desire is oppressive. Power lies in combining both, and doing so with subtlety. Are you aware of what others secretly long for, and what they desperately wish to avoid? These are your levers. Desire is the easiest path to influence. Humans chase symbols, illusions, and promises more eagerly than reality itself. A clever leader offers hope, prestige, or fulfillment, and the crowd follows eagerly, often blind to the cost. Consider Florence during the Renaissance. Merchants and princes knew that granting indulgences, status, or visible favor could win loyalty far faster than wealth or force. They created desire like a sculptor shaping clay. Careful, deliberate, and with full awareness of the vulnerabilities they exploited. Fear, however, is more potent. Fear acts like gravity, inexorable, inescapable, and capable of bending even the strongest will. But it must be applied judiciously. Excessive fear provokes rebellion. Insufficient fear invites contempt. The cunning leader, the strategist, calibrates it with precision. Look to the medieval courts, where kings and dukes inspired awe with displays of judgment and subtle threat. Those who miscalculated, either too lenient or too brutal, invited chaos. Are you careful to measure your intimidation as much as your generosity? Psychology offers a clear principle. Humans act to maximize pleasure and minimize pain. Exploit this. Create environments where your desires seem attainable only through your guidance. Whisper possibilities, signal opportunities, and let their imagination lead them into the path you have prepared. Simultaneously, highlight risks that loom without your intervention. Fear and desire, when balanced, guide the mind as surely as a river is guided by its banks. Consider the art of propaganda and persuasion in modern times. Political leaders, marketing strategists, and even social influencers manipulate the same dual forces. They promise status, fulfillment, or identity, desires so basic that resistance seems unnatural. They also warn of catastrophe, loss, or ridicule, fears so primal that compliance appears rational. The masses respond predictably, moving as if guided by invisible strings, and you can learn to wield the same principles on a smaller, personal scale, bending colleagues, rivals, and even friends to your advantage. Yet manipulation requires patience. Impatience is the ruin of the unskilled. Push too hard, too fast, and you provoke suspicion. Apply too little, and desire fades or fear dissipates. Observe, test, and adjust constantly. Learn the individual, understand the group, and craft interventions that feel natural, inevitable, even voluntary. True power comes not from brute imposition, but from subtle orchestration. Ask yourself now who in your life is guided by fear or longing. Who acts impulsively when promises sparkle or threats loom? And how can you become the silent architect of those impulses? The unseen hand that nudges, directs, and ultimately controls outcomes. These are the questions that separate the master from the Narn, the ruler from the follower, the predator from the prey. And yet, this is only the beginning. Desire and fear are tools. But the ultimate weapon lies in timing, in knowing precisely when to act, when to strike, and when to allow events to unfold on their own. Master this next, and your influence becomes near absolute. The crowd is predictable, always. The herd moves as one, driven by fear, desire, and habit. Most men never question the direction, never resist the pull, never see the strings that guide them. But you, if you wish to rise above 99% of the world, must understand the psychology of the masses and learn how to break them, bend them, and guide them like clay in a masterful hand. Why do you think revolutions succeed or empires fall? It is rarely the strength of a single warrior or the cunning of a single ruler. It is the manipulation of the crowd, the herd's collective psychology. Napoleon understood this principle more clearly than most. Before a single battle, he studied the fears and hopes of his troops and the civilians in occupied lands. He spoke to them not as individuals, but as a collective mind. He inspired obedience, loyalty, and even awe. He broke the inertia of the herd, and in doing so, commanded it to follow him beyond reason. Breaking the herd begins with understanding conformity. Humans are social creatures, slaves to the opinions of others. They fear standing out, ridicule, or rejection. Observe your environment, who follows without question, who mirrors the emotions of the majority. These are your instruments. By subtly introducing doubt, curiosity, or alternative behaviors, you can fracture collective thinking and insert influence where the herd once acted as one. History offers a brutal lesson. The herd will turn vicious against those it perceives as different, threatening, or weak. Consider the fall of Caligula, The emperor's excesses and unpredictability alienated the Roman Senate and populace. Fear and contempt combined to shatter loyalty. A single conspiracy succeeded because the herd had already fractured from within. When the herd divides, control becomes possible. But first, one must understand the fault lines. Where does fear mingle with desire? Where does envy meet hope? Where does obedience clash with discontent? Identify these points, and you control the flow of masses without ever engaging them openly. Even in quieter arenas, the principle remains. In corporations, social groups, and online communities, the herd is swayed by perception, authority, and suggestion. A well-timed message, a subtle signal, or a demonstration of power can shift allegiance, create doubt, or provoke admiration. Those who understand this manipulate the collective will while appearing to act alone. Others, unaware, believe the herd moves naturally, never realizing how it has been guided. But caution, fracturing the herd is dangerous. The masses are volatile, their anger is contagious. Push too far, too quickly, and rebellion consumes you. Push too little, and inertia prevails. The skill lies in incremental influence. Plant a seed of thought, observe its growth, adjust the narrative. Let the herd fracture organically, as if by its own volition, and you step in to shape the emerging pattern. Subtlety, patience, and timing are everything. Psychologically, the herd fears uncertainty and craves leadership. When you position yourself as the source of direction, calm, decisive, and confident, you transform potential chaos into opportunity. The herd will follow, willingly or unwittingly, because humans seek order even in submission. Are you prepared to wield this knowledge? Are you willing to study the currents of collective thought before striking? Look at the propaganda masters of the modern era. They do not compel through reason alone, they fracture collective perception and redirect collective emotion. They break patterns, introduce doubt, and amplify desire or fear. The herd, once fractured, is malleable. And you, if skilled, can become a master of the same subtle art, bending groups to your vision without ever lifting a hand in violence. Ask yourself, where does the herd in your life remain unchallenged, unexamined, and obedient? Where can you introduce small fractures, subtle hints, or carefully placed provocations to guide it? To dominate the world, you must first dominate the collective mind, understanding that influence flows not through force alone, but through calculated disruption and strategic guidance. And yet, this is not the pinnacle. Breaking the herd is only a prelude to true mastery. For once you control the collective will, you must learn to direct it toward your desired outcome while keeping the individual unaware of your hand. This next step, manipulating entire systems without exposure, is the most dangerous, the most subtle, and the most rewarding of all. Power is invisible. Influence is silent. Control is most potent when it is unnoticed. Have you observed? The strongest move without showing the move. The clever shape perception, desire, and fear while the world remains blind. Those who dominate the herd, the individual, and the currents of society are not always the loudest. They are the patient, the calculating, the unseen architects of action. Every word you conceal, every intention you hide, every fear or longing you manipulate brings you closer to mastery. Ask yourself how many betrayals, missed opportunities, or wasted battles could have been avoided had you understood the mechanics of human behavior. How far could you rise if you wielded influence without revealing your hand? Do not linger in the shadows of mediocrity. Act, learn, apply. Comment your thoughts below. Reveal how you would bend perception to your will. Subscribe for more strategies that the world prefers you never know. Share this knowledge carefully, for insight is power, and power is rare.